The snow fell in heavy, quiet sheets that winter afternoon, cloaking the neighborhood in silence, save for the crunch of boots against ice. Most kids were inside, glued to their screens, but 14-year-old Evan Morgan had a different mission. His hands were red from the cold, his scarf soaked with melted flakes, and his shovel scraped relentlessly against the driveway concrete. But he wasn't at his own house. He was standing in front of the smallest, most time-worn home on the block, a place he had walked past 100 times but never really noticed. Until today. It had started 2 days earlier. Evan had been grounded, again. Skipping homework for video games had finally pushed his mom too far. In her frustration, she handed him an old snow shovel and said, "Go do something useful. Help someone. You've got time now." He grumbled, stomped outside, and chose the first driveway that looked neglected and buried. That led him to the little blue house with the broken mailbox. He didn't expect the door to creak open as he shoveled. Didn't expect to see a frail man with sunken eyes, a stiff posture, and a flannel shirt open just enough to reveal dog tags still hanging around his neck. "You don't have to do that," the man croaked, his voice weathered like wood left in the rain. Evan shrugged, not quite meeting his gaze. "It's fine. Better than sitting inside." The man nodded slowly and retreated into the shadows of the house, but something about the way he lingered in the doorway stayed with Evan. He came back the next day. And the next. After a week, the old man, who introduced himself simply as Mr. Reynolds, started bringing Evan hot cocoa after he finished. They would sit on the front step, the mug warming Evan's frozen fingers as Mr. Reynolds told stories from a lifetime ago. About boot camp in Georgia. About flying helicopters over jungles he couldn't forget. About the friends he'd lost and the ones he'd come home to bury. Evan didn't say much at first. He wasn't sure what to say. But he listened. Really listened. For the first time in his life, someone's story felt more important than his own. Evan learned Mr. Reynolds had no children, no nearby relatives. His wife had passed 5 years earlier. The neighbors had long stopped checking in. "People forget the old," he said once, staring into the snowy street. "They forget until it's too late to remember." One day, Mr. Reynolds invited Evan inside. The house was cold, dim, and quiet except for the occasional creak of the walls. On the mantel sat photographs, black and white moments frozen in time. Young soldiers laughing. A woman in a wedding dress. A baby boy holding a wooden airplane. "Your son?" Evan asked gently, pointing to the photo. Mr. Reynolds didn't answer at first. His eyes glossed over. He was 6 when he died. Leukemia. Silence hung between them. Evan's throat tightened. He looked away, unsure what to say. But the old man's hand rested briefly on his shoulder, and it was Eno. Enough. Over the months, their friendship deepened. Evan came even when it didn't snow. He started bringing groceries, helping clean, listening to Mr. Reynolds' endless stories. In return, the veteran taught Evan how to fix a leaky faucet, how to sharpen a knife, how to tie a tie, things his own father never had. Evan's mother noticed the change. His teachers noticed. He wasn't the same boy who once hid behind screens and excuses. He was growing. Maturing. But time, as always, was merciless. One February morning, Evan arrived to find an ambulance parked out front. The door was open, the wind howling through it like a warning. A neighbor explained quietly, Mr. Reynolds had collapsed in the night. He didn't make it. Evan stood in the snow, unable to move. The shovel slipped from his fingers. It wasn't just grief. It was the ache of realizing he'd lost someone who had become family. At the funeral, only a handful of people attended. Evan wore the tie Mr. Reynolds had taught him to not. He stepped forward during the eulogy, his voice cracking as he spoke. "He changed my life," Evan said. "I thought I was helping him by shoveling snow, but he was the one helping me. He taught me what it means to live with courage, to love without expecting anything back, to be present. I'll never forget him." The crowd was silent, some with tears, some with soft nods. The boy and the old soldier, generations apart, had found something rare, something real. That spring, Evan started a local service project, Shovel and Serve, where students helped elderly residents with snow removal, yard work, and companionship. He spoke at school assemblies, encouraging others to look past their screens and notice the quiet houses, the lonely porches, the forgotten veterans. Years later, Evan would tell the story on national platforms, in interviews, and eventually in a best-selling book. But none of that mattered as much as that single winter when he picked up a shovel and found a friend. Because sometimes, the smallest acts open the biggest doors. And sometimes, the people we least expect end up shaping the course of our lives forever.